No, no, she's going too far.
No,
Just,
no,
just.
that's okay. Just making sure that everyone can be on the same line.
Yep. Uh, Welcome to the Australia Today. My name is Dr. Amit Sarwal. I'm the co-founder and editor. Today is a very special day as Australia Today tries to reach out to various Indian communities in Australia. We are back again with Dr. Dipti Talolikar at the Indian High Commission, where today on 4th of March, the Indian community is celebrating hashtag Embrace Equality. Indian community celebrating International Women's Day. Dr. Dipti, welcome back to Australia Today.
Thank you very much. Great to be back.
Now, now, you are the co-host of this event as the women's representative for the Federation of Indian Associations of the ACT Inc., that is the FINACT. Now, what's the we know that there are lots of Indian associations in Australia. I think there are about 55, 60 in Victoria alone where I stay. What's so special about FINACT and how are you involved with it?
Yes, so we have a very vibrant Indian community here. We've got 31 associations for various communities in India. And it was a while back that the High Commission of India, Dr. Sujata Singh, I think it was,
Yes.
she decided that it would be a good idea to bring everyone together. And so FINACT was created. We've got our own constitution. Each of our member associations have their constitution. And we celebrate all the big events together. And we present a united front to Australia.
So you have been in Australia, particularly Canberra, for the last 20 years, and you have been nominated for the Women of the Year award as well. In our last discussion, you told us that you have seen the community grow. How big is the community now, in the last
Yes,
20 years?
So FINACT represents about 20 or 25,000 Indians now in the ACT, and we are very engaged. So even percentage-wise, even if we are not a large number, we are very engaged with all the activities that happen in the ACT.
Now, I assume that the International Women's Day is being celebrated, it has been celebrated over the years, but this time it's at the Indian High Commission with at least two bodies involved. You have poetry reading sessions, writers, community members. I think there would be delicious food as well at the end of the 2 hour session. When we talk about the word embrace equality, and I know that personally that you are a very big advocate within the community for equality. How do you see that Indian community is embracing equality? When it comes to, is it just tokenism or is it actually happening?
No, it is happening. I think particularly in the migrant community, our daughters, our granddaughters, they're very, very aware of their rights. They are pushing back on any restrictions that might be put on them. So I think it is the concept of equity more than equality. I think it's equity, where you recognize that everyone has different needs and you provide opportunities to them based on their requirements. And certainly, I think diverse people, including the Indian community, need to be provided, especially women, need to be provided that variable opportunity as required. So we might need a bigger push-up, a bit of a leg up, but that then allows contribute well to Australia. And there's very good data to show that if you've got diversity in workplaces, in countries, the outcomes are much, much better.
And I know that you have with you the co-host of this event, Kitu Randhawa. So we would love to, share her views. I don't think Kitu is a bit shy. No, Kitu is here. So Kitu is the co-host and founder of the Indian Subcontinent Crisis and Support Agency, in short ICSA. And ICSA has been doing a lot of work within the community. And if you see Kitu's LinkedIn profile, it is amazing the kind of work she has been doing. Kitu, what motivated you to found this ICSA and one of the other organizations that you had?
I think the motivation wasn't found. It was just came about simply because we had a lot of people coming from India very quickly and as temporary residents. And for those of us who lived here, we looked around to see what support they had and realized that they didn't have eligibility, they didn't have entitlement. And while at the beginning we thought we'll be another community organization navigating the system, we quickly realized that that wasn't going to work. So we then established ICSA back in 2014 to set up doing professional services as the same as anyone else, but within a cultural framework to address our cultural needs as well as our practical needs.
Now, I understand that ICSA helps or provides professional services to a cohort of migrants, be it temporary, people looking towards residency, and even established migrants who need some kind of support. So how do you differentiate yourself from the other CALD communities providing similar services?
Fundamentally, we do look at a holistic view of a client's needs. So whether you're a temporary migrant or whether you're a citizen here, we do have to look at it in terms of your family circumstances, how much family support you have, what sort of financial situation you're in. Whereas other services are very categorized. You need housing, you go to a housing service. If you need mental health, you go to mental health. We really look at it from the point of view of a client, an individual, and then we look at services that can support them. And where they don't exist, that's when we step in and we do things ourselves. And we do it with the framework of our own cultural needs as well.
Yeah, so that's where kind of very important when it comes to the diaspora, subcontinental diaspora communities. Culture stands out in terms of understanding, be it the key issues such as family violence or cultural abuse. The chalta hai attitude or hota hai ghar pe attitude, and then you have to step in somewhere. How do you deal with the, as a cultural consultant specializing in complex issues, how do you step in and make the client understand that this is not okay?
Generally speaking, I think most people who are undergoing any kind of abuse or violence already know it. So there's this concept that people don't know that they're going through difficulty or a difficult time. They may not call it any academic term like domestic violence, but they know that they're in difficulty, they have a problem. So culturally, we approach it in the same way. We don't label it, we don't stereotype them, and we ask them what it is that they want. And we have to work with what they want. The idea that we can step in and take over and guide somebody into some other direction is not the way it's done. It is about someone's life, their choices, their autonomy, their agency, and then seeing what support we can give them to achieve the best outcome that they can have.
Now, I know that as a cultural consultant, your work doesn't stop with the client. It also goes beyond the client and to the policymakers. So how do you deal with the federal, the ministers who do not understand, or the policymakers who do not understand the Indian culture? So how do you advocate and make them understand that this is the kind of thing that these groups need?
I think over the years it has gotten a little bit easier, because when we first started and we'd say things like leaving home is not the solution to domestic violence for a lot of our women, they want to stay in the home. It was very much rejected, pushed back on, and said, no, that's not how we do things in Australia. But as a cultural consultant, one of the things I do is I do a lot of cultural mindfulness training with other groups, frontline workers, government people, and to explain to them this is how the culture operates and how it fits into Australia. More importantly, the context within Australia. So now they're all willing and open to listen. We're still not far enough in the conversation as we would like, but they are less likely to just dismiss things out of hand now. But we do it through submissions. We sit on consultation committees. We're invited to roundtables, and we do written submissions as well. We do individual client advocacy. Once in a while, we'll write to a minister for a client. So it's a number of different aspects that all come together to actually change some of the attitudes and ideas. These days, we don't look for where we go. We get invited. So that's always, a good move. We're going in the right direction to be invited to be talked about these things.
Yeah.
So
And what kind of support have you got from the Indian High Commission? Say, I kind of understand that the domestic violence, family violence, dowry issues are not just they go beyond the Australian borders as well, because sometimes the families are involved directly dealing from India. So do you get support from the Indian authorities as well?
We do, in the fact that we're an empaneled organisation with the Indian government for providing support to what they call abandoned spouses. Whilst that is all very good, it becomes very difficult when issues are between countries. So there's a massive gap between supporting people here who have left India and then the law legislative changes. So in terms of child support, who gets custody, how do you pay for for means if one person is living in the home country, abandoned spouses is a massive issue. So there is a big gap that we've got to address in terms of how do we manage those sort of family separations and breakups, particularly, but also in areas of mental support or when somebody's family member dies overseas and they haven't got the means to go back. So we do get support and there is an aim, but it's really a conversation to be had at the federal governments. And that is a conversation we regularly try and start, but certainly we'd like to see more in that area.
So in your work experience, have you seen that the problems have escalated, or is there more awareness about these issues within the community now?
Look, some problems have escalated because some laws that we have in Australia are not conducive to people coming here and settling quite easily. There are challenges. But in other cases, I think there is more movement towards, we're more understanding, but certainly awareness is much, much greater than it was 10 years ago. And people's rights in migrant labour exploitation, dowry abuse, those sort of issues are much more acknowledged and they are more talked about. And then we're looking for solutions and changes in legislation now to address some of those things.
Now, you are the co-host of the event, and with you is a very special guest, a poet and author, Menaka. So can we have her on the line as well? Thank you, Kitu.
Oh, Menaka.
Thank you. Hi there. How are you?
Hi, Menaka. Now, you are a gem. You are an author, a poet, a celebrity. So,
Okay.
if we have to ask you to sum, International Women's Day in your own words, how would you do that?
I celebrate being a woman, and I have discovered not to let any sort of, obstacles that stand in my way to get me down. So I believe in my own power, my strength, finding the resources around me and to help me go forward. But at the same time, to support the women and men, because believe me, men are also abused, I can tell you, in the community, and to be that advocate. So I came to Australia about 50 years ago, and January 73. And at first I tried to assimilate because there were hardly any Indians here. But over the years, I began to, and I made a big career for myself. But over the years, I've discovered there's so many people like me who don't speak up. So that is why I joined Kitu in her endeavor to support women. And while I have an industrial relations, employment relations background here in Australia, I also studied psychotherapy and counseling. So I help her to give mental health support to people in a very culturally competent way. Because people don't want to be told, go here, do this, do that. We actually, as Kitu often says, it is client-led. So I want to know from them, what do they need in terms of practical support? What do they need in terms of peace? Not feeling abandoned, not feeling shamed, because I believe you, shame and blame is like a big topic in our community that we need to tackle. But it's only slowly, little bit at a time. And as Kitu said, it is growing, the awareness of what we need. I'm also on the boards of the Women Electoral Lobby and the Older Women's Network, the Women Chiefs of Enterprises, and I keep advocating this all the time. So little by little, I'm pushing what I call the envelope ahead so that people open up and talk to us about it. It's not a taboo issue. It is something we want people to ask us about.
Now, Menaka, since you moved here in 1973, 50 years, and now in 2022 and 23, we have a lot of Indian origin or South Asian origin women asking for a seat in the parliament. Liberals, Labours, you had the first Indian origin women coming from Perth to the federal parliament. And we are seeing that kind of demand here in Victoria, New South Wales, not at local levels, not at council level. They want a say. And you are part of the women's electoral lobby. How do you address this thing? How do you encourage Indian or South Asian origin women or women who are from migrant backgrounds?
We encourage them verbally by advocating for them. We have also put into our policies that we take to the major parties, whether they are Liberal or Labour or Greens. We want equal representation. And I think if 50% of Australia has at least one parent born overseas, and 30% of us are, if not migrants, but first generation citizens, we need to be represented, because our needs, and I won't say our demands, but what we need can be quite different, whether it's in terms of health, whether it's in terms of, the services we have. All that is so necessary to be understood and not to be put into the background of what Anglo women may want or what Anglo people may want.
Now, 1973, and you tried to assimilate. Was there at any point you thought, I must fight an election? I should join a political party, leave my employment? And if so,
let me say, I was invited to join a union, and then somebody encouraged me much later to join the Greens. But, all of us first generation migrants are look for our economic well-being first, because we have to pay for accommodation, food, whatever. I have a daughter now. She was a baby when I came here to study and to, make a career for themselves. So now I encourage other women, younger, go and become somebody, whether it is in local government or state or federal government, and give us a voice. And that is the sort of advocacy I do along with Kitu. Mine is more in the mental health support, because I have a master's in psychotherapy and counseling. And that has been very useful for me, not only to heal myself, but to help in healing others.
Now, you used a very interesting word, the voice. What the voice is in an in thing right now, particularly with the Aboriginal community, but the voice is also expressed through a lot of different means. And you used that through a book. You authored Monsoon Women. Now, when I use the word monsoon, everyone is reminded of Monsoon Wedding, the famous movie. So first question is, anything to do with Monsoon Wedding or
No. It was because I think I was born during the monsoon. Okay. And when I was a child, I loved the rain. So my siblings would say, here comes the monsoon woman. So that's how it started.
The title comes from. Was it hard for you to publish the book as called Migrant here? Because we, at the Australia Today, we also have started a publication house, Kula Press, because we got the feeling that a lot of South Asian migrants were neglected by the so-called white publishers, and who are looking for a particular kind of story, not the story you want to tell. Do you have the same experience?
Agreed. And I had to go to an American publisher who then insisted that I should write it under a pseudonym. And I had to change the names of my parents, my grandparents, and everything else, including my name. But I thought, all right, this is a way to get it out. So a lot of people don't link it with me, but I'm the author. And I would be happy to go through your publishing house under my own name so as to make it a voice to migrant people, because it's a story which started tragically, but has ended very well.
And now I have been told that you're going to read a poem or some selection of your poetry today. Do you have anything, word or message for our audience in terms of poetry?
Poetry, one of them is written by my daughter, who is the CEO of an NGO now. And she remembers at the age of 3 what happened. So I want people to know that children are not just silent witnesses. They are imbibing everything that is happening around them, and it influences their path in life. So if you're happy to, I can send you a copy of that poem and mine, and you can publish it or do whatever you like with it.
Definitely. We would like to publish it on the Australia Today. Manika, Deepthi, and Kitu, once again, congratulations to all three for organizing this wonderful event, Embrace Equality. And I know the Indian community is going to celebrate International Women's Day in all the parts of Australia. And we would love to come back to you and interview you individually on your work and your experiences in Australia. Thank you again for joining.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.